Never miss a Monday, man.
Start writing that one down. Monday's not my day.
You know, I'll text you every Monday, every Sunday night.
Yeah, Monday's hard.
Are we on?
So you're looking to do this every week, are you?
It's just on the fortnightly basis. We use the amateurs, pros, bring profiles like yourself, managers, sponsors, all of it, and we'll just roll them out kind of fortnightly. So this is pretty much the first episode, really, so I appreciate you coming on, man. And I think, and I have to do this ongoing, I'll just introduce everybody and we'll go from there. I've got a few questions for all of you, and then we'll just bounce with that. I think more, because you're coaching now, the development teams, things like that.
Yep.
Are we on, Reese? All right, cool. So I'll always have to just introduce and then we'll just go into the discussion. All right, guys, cool. So this is something I've been working on with Benny and Coach Paul since Christmas, really. This is just an idea that really came up. We want to do All-Star Boxing Podcast episodes roughly fortnightly. It's pretty much just a panel for our amateurs, our pros, the sponsors, or whoever really wants to jump on this over time. So I guess we've got our main man behind the All-Star brand, Jim. You know, he's pretty much the reason why a lot of kids, teenagers and even adults can achieve their boxing goals and dreams. You know, no matter how big or small. So our one and only Benny Harrington. And you know, second to him is pretty much again the reason why a lot of our amateur boxers here at All-Star Boxing and the success, and even the club success too. So, you know, that's our one and only Paul Utia. So I want to thank you for coming on as well. And this familiar face here, I have to read this because just in case you got too many accolades, bro. You know, we got our former professional rugby league GOAT, who played for Brisbane Broncos. You captained the Broncos too for a few seasons. How many seasons? 2 seasons. Queensland Maroons, State of Origin, and also Australian International Representative Justin Hodges, bro. Appreciate you coming on, my man.
Sure, brother. Thanks for having me.
No, bro, this is cool. This is it, you know. One day we'll have a crowd, yeah. So far it's just us, yeah. I guess, look, for all of us now, I guess for you three, you're more in the coaching position, you know, development programs and all of that. And Benny, you know, we've got a lot of members now. We're in a position where All-Star is pretty much at the top of the game in the amateur league, and even the pros that are coming through. Just for those that don't know, how did All-Star come about? Like, how do we even get here?
Yeah, that's a long story. Buckle up, kiddos. Yeah, so my oldest son, who's now 20, he was playing rugby, stuff like that, and he was about maybe 11 at the time. I got him into boxing at my old club, Kabingo Boxing at Bracken Ridge, with my old coach, which is where I boxed. And I just jumped in as a parent and an ex-boxer of the gym, and ended up taking over that the coaching role at Kabingo. From there, I just got the bug back because I was out of it for a little bit, and I've just been running it up ever since. Like, I've just been really focused and driving it. So yeah, we started off over there with maybe 2 or 3 boxers, and now over here we've got Coach Paul running the amateurs, and we've got the pros going. We've got little kids. We've got, I don't know, maybe 100 members, probably 30 active amateurs and 3 or 4 pros. So
yeah, nice.
It's just gone crazy.
And how many years in the making is that for All-Star?
I started over there about 2013. I branched off on my own probably 2015, maybe 2016, and then it's just crazy. Yeah, it's gone bananas.
Yeah, nice. And for yourself, Paul, like, how did you get to the position you're at now?
Funny story. Came in with my son. I was actually just supposed to drop him off. First day, I dropped him off. He was doing a bit of pads with Coach Caden. Benny comes up the stairs saying, "This kid looks like a gun. How many fights has he had?" And I said, "This is second week here." Then after that, the next day, I kept coming in. Then Benny kept on telling me to do pads, and he sort of just got me, sort of included me in the team. Just little things like doing pads, helping all the little kids out. And then one day he goes, "You might as well just do this full time because you're already doing it." And I went, "All right." And we're here right now.
Yeah, nice. How long ago was that?
This would be probably about 3-4 years ago, I think it is.
Yeah,
Actually, it's
nice.
4 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
The story's way better than that. That was so humble. Such an Islander answer.
What do you remember? Because you
Yeah,
never
PJ
done
was
before?
so his son's PJ.
Yeah.
He just was too good for that class, and he hadn't boxed, he hadn't competed. And I said so he would just come in, and this guy had 80 amateur fights. He beat Damien Hooper a couple of times in the amateurs. Like he's done it as an amateur at Justice's old gym, Bethania.
Yeah.
So he's sitting down, being the humble Islander that he is, sitting there, and I'm watching his son, and I was like, there's no way. Like this kid's had no fights. There's not a chance.
How old was he then, PJ?
9 or 10.
9.
And I said to Coach Force at the time, I just said, mate, what's this kid done? Where's he been? He's boxed somewhere. Oh, I've done a little bit with him at home. And I was like, oh yeah. Like next day, same thing. I was like, there's no way. I was like, have you boxed? Because I didn't know him. Yeah. And he goes, oh yeah, I had a couple of fights. I was like, oh, where did you box at? Oh, I boxed at Bethania. I was like, Bethania? I boxed out there for a little bit. How many fights have you had? Oh, I had about 80. Oh, nice. Who did you fight? I beat this guy, Dave Toussaint. I was like, I literally walked over, got a pair of hand pads. I said, here, mate, you're a coach. I said, you're a coach now. Like, what are you talking about? And ever since then, yeah. That's probably my proudest one of my proudest achievements here is Coach Paul, is that, he was working at the airport like me. Funny enough, I was working at Star Trek at the airport. He was working across the road for 10 years. I never knew the guy. Like, he was just a worker over there. I'd never even seen him. And the biggest achievement is that he detached work like I did. It took me ages to do it. I had 2 or 3 jobs for ages running Kabingo and All-Star as a side hustle. And then, he got to do it a lot quicker than I did. So, he got to flick the job and do this full time. So, and now he's the Queensland coach and got, one of, if not the best amateur team in the country. So.
You treat this like a science. So every time I come into the gym, you're on the board, just... You see, you're like, oh, that's nice writing.
That's crazy.
And it's nice science, it's formula, and do you think you've really developed as a coach? Because did you even think you'd be coaching one day?
No, to be honest, never thought I'd be a coach, but I think I still had that, I wouldn't say it's a boxer's mentality, but that sort of will to win. So everything that I do is pretty much structure. So the way we've structured everything out, it's, how do I say, so it's prepping everyone for certain fights. Just like, so next week we'll have novice titles, same thing. So I've been trying to get most of these novices ready for that tournament. We have a few of them actually having their first fight. So nice. Cooper Zan, who else was there? Cooper Zan, Jordan as well. So hopefully they'll be having their first fights and hopefully they get the win.
Yeah, nice. And you've really developed them from the start? This is their first fight for All-Star.
Yeah, definitely. So the story with Cooper Zan is he started off in our Pee-wees. That's a system that was ran by Coach Caden and Herb, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've sort of brought them up and they've told me that, he's now ready to move up. Yeah. So he's moved up in the class. He's just started to get used to it now. So, but he's definitely ready to fight for next week as well. Yeah, and with Jordan, so I've had Jordan for about 2 years, I think it is now. He started in the same system as well. Also has developed and so he's ready for next. He's
on.
Yeah.
Wow. And look, we all know your ex-Broncos, all of that state of origin, Australia. But what are you been up to these days? What are you doing?
I still work at the Broncos. So we got an Indigenous program where we do a lot of mentoring in terms of bringing our kids to school, trying to get a good education from them to go out and challenge themselves and be successful in whichever pathway they want to do. So we have like a student support officer in each school. We got about just under 2,500 kids in our program, about 54 schools now. So we go far south as Lismore, up to Gympie, out to Roma, Charleville, Colomulla. So we do that. A lot of mentoring that we come along and do. Workshops and stuff that we create and deliver ourselves. So a lot of that's around culture, also leadership. Whatever. We sort of hand out a little piece of paper to the students about what they want to learn about and what can we teach them. So we do that, and they get rewarded each term if they get 90% attendance, good behaviour, and positive participation. So not just coming into class and sitting there being naughty or walking out. They actually got to be physically in class, engaging and really learning. And so just doing that, and then also assistant coach at the South Logan Magpies this year as well. So with the state league, so helping out Bretto, AJ, and obviously Carmichael Hunt's out there coaching as well. He's coaching the 18s, the Melbourne Inga Cup, so I just do 1 day a week with him as well. And then, so yeah, doing a little bit, mate, trying to keep busy,
nice.
bit of boxing as well, and then trying to deal with 2 hard-headed kids at home.
I guess that's the juggle. When I don't have any children yet, but having kids, you're having to juggle the lifestyle, career, and kids, and also other kids. Yeah. So, did you think how did you get into this? Was there a program for retired NRL stars to go into, or was it something that you really wanted to move into?
Yeah, look, the coaching side, it sort of hit me probably the last, I think, 2 or 3 years of my career. I sort of didn't know what I was going to do when I retired. I knew that I'd have a job at some capacity at the Broncos, didn't know what. Obviously, the program that I work in now, I was only new, and I think it was only about 6 people that was involved in it. Now there's over 60 people that's involved in the program. Then sort of talking to one of my old coaches, Anthony Griffin, who head coaches the Dragons now, about the idea of being a head coach one day. I think there's never been an Indigenous coach win a competition as well. So that sort of drove me as well. And there's been a lot of fantastic Indigenous players that have played our game, but for some reason, when they finish, they just take off and gone. You don't see them, which is a shame because now some of our best players have been Indigenous players. But like I said, so a lot of them just take off back home and then don't want to stay involved in the game. Where I sort of really found a passion for trying to bring young guys through and really show them about how special our game is and how special you can make your career. And you can really have a good life from it as well. But also the ups and downs of sport, not just the good times, the social media stuff, the injuries, the dedication that you got to put into your body and train hard, and you got to turn up each week with a positive mindset and get ready to roll. So that's how my coaching sort of came about, and so I really got a passion for it. And at some stage I'd like to have a crack in the NRL, even though it's a tough gig. We were just talking about it before, where if you ain't successful pretty quickly, you get found out and booted out of the game pretty quick. So it is a very tough industry. You don't get a lot of second chances, but I wouldn't mind having a crack one day. But at the moment, I'm happy doing the Queensland Cup. Just getting back to that grassroots level where all those boys only part-time footballers and they work as well. So just seeing a different side where we were full-time and just trying to get a gauge on them and then try and help them as well.
That's the struggle with most, even boxing. So NRL Rugby League has that kind of program to move into full-time training, where a lot of us don't really have the luxury to train full-time. The boxers, we don't, and we have to really. It's an individual sport where we have to attract our own sponsors. Where a lot of the clubs have those team sponsors, so we have to really kind of work our way through the business side as well as even training and doing all the work, and that's where. Also boxing, we have the luxury of having full-time coaches, because not even coaches can work train full-time. A lot of them work during the day full-time and then train kids at night, where you guys had to really bust your ass off to be able to even give us that full-time. So I guess that's that struggle. And you being a full-time athlete in the past, you've lived that life. So you being that coach, same for you guys, you've lived that life to be able to understand what we go through as an athlete. You trained. When you were training full-time with the Broncos, what was your daily routine?
Basically just train. So it depends on pre-season stuff was 6 days a week, starting early in the morning, getting your, whether it's fitness, team stuff, weights, ice baths, massages, all that type of stuff. So then sort of when you come in season, everything sort of changes from game to game. So you might play a Friday, then a Saturday or a Sunday. So then obviously your week sort of changed, but that's sort of given to you by the coaches. So as a footy player, your life's sort of structured where you don't have to worry about anything else, and you know where you got to go every day, and you know what you got to do. So it's only
Did
now.
you all have the same physio, the same everything? You trained together?
Yeah, no. So everything was there for us. So we had a full-time physio. Ended up getting two guys coming in as well. Obviously, there's a lot of players that can get injured as you get older, but yeah, it is a big difference now. Now there's probably more. There's the money and the science around sport these days, not just rugby league, any sport. Mate, I was at the Broncos training today doing some stuff for that community stuff, and I counted like 14 coaches that were just sitting on the sideline doing nothing. So that just goes to show you. But I shouldn't say doing nothing, but they've all got a specific job where they might be watching the guys at a certain level where back in the day you just run, and then you might break down and then you're done a hemi. But now they've got all these trackers on you. So you might say, for example, you might only can get 3 kilometres this week. You might be able to get 2. So as soon as you reach that level, you get pulled out of training, straight on the bike or straight in the ice baths. And so everything's changed from the way that we started. But, it's just, like I said, everything's about winning. So they try and get the best facilities, best coaches, best everything to try and make sure the players are ready to go game day and not worn out during the week. So, you can sort of see where, like he's talking about with boxing and stuff, like it's probably not at that level, unfortunately. And, and doing boxing now, I can see how hard the sport is and the dedication you can have for this. Like playing rugby league, you got 16 other mates on the footy field that can help you, especially if you're not feeling well on the game day.
They can carry you.
They can get you through the line. Where this sport, you don't turn up ready to go, the right people around you, you're going to get hurt.
And I wonder if also Boxing Academy, because it's still early days, as in like some of us pros, myself, Liam Wilson, Vegas, even Bennett Hussein, you look at the next gen, the amateurs, when it's their turn to turn pro, let's say 5-10 years down the track, if we would have more of an academy type training where the pros are together with Ice Bath, or we'll have specific people that really help us, because I see our club growing. I see it growing to the point where people will want to be a part of it, part of the development and all of that, because at the moment us pros are all doing our own thing. And it's pretty much your own performance base. And I wonder if that was like your training, if you were below par, would you kick up the arse and say, look, you got to pick your slack up or you're gone?
Yeah, you do. But also you got senior players too. So if you're switching off or you're not doing what you're told to do, the senior players will kick your ass pretty quickly. And I sort of found out as you get older and you step up in those senior roles, like if you see a young bloke not doing his job and you've told him time and time again, well then it's a conversation you have with the other senior players and the coach and say, look, don't pick him. He's a guy that can't be trusted. He's taking shortcuts here, so he's going to take a shortcut on the field and let us down at some stage, where a lot of that has happened in the past, and sometimes we've walked past it. But then as you get older, you sort of realise that, what's at stake and what's important is winning and winning grand finals. So you can't walk past those little bad habits that everyone's got and you get created. But like you do get kicked in the arse if you're not doing the right thing, and I think that's the only way you learn, really, and it's the only way you get professional, and you get to learn. And if you want to reach your potential and go out there and grow and be a good, not just a great player but also a team player as well, you got to start doing the little things right and encourage everyone else to do the little things right as well.
Yeah, nice. Because that's where you guys have, I guess, coach to athlete relationship. You got the parents that are there, but then you have to take control, and then it's your responsibility. I guess you all feel some sense of responsibility, like, dude, I've lost my last fight. I was dropped. Liam lost. So I guess you take it on board, because even when we've lost in training, you're telling us, you're repeating us, defense after movement. We may just kind of switch off, but you're staying on us. Like, come on, man, what are you doing?
It's and just going back to the difference between boxing and the NRL, it's money. It all comes down to money. You can afford to have 16 guys sitting on the sideline doing a specific role. It all comes down to that at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's where
money in the facilities, you can do whatever you want. But it's expensive.
Yeah, just to even pay for our own lifestyle. That's on training on top of that, rehab. 3 times a day training to go and fight for $5,000. Yeah.
And you fight 4 times a year. Well, good luck.
And that's why people switch off. Like they'd say, "Nah, stuff this. I'm doing something else."
Yeah, because the George Cambosis of the world, they're rare. Like you fight for $5,000. He's fought for $5,000 in pubs, but that belief is all you can hold on to. But there's how many world champions? That's why there's a really big difference between the Canelos of the world and the rest, because he's got the money. Yeah, he's got all the best of everything, and you're fighting against someone from a back shed. They're worlds apart. So, yeah.
How do you guys feel, like Coach Paul? How do you feel when your next boy's fighting, boy or girl is up in the ring, and then you have to ride that wave with them. Like you program these kids to be able to just do what you say in the corner.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it all comes down to the preparation that these kids go through within training. So the sparring, the partner work, just everything like that. Just making sure that you and the boxer understand you're on the same page pretty much. So when we actually do come to fights, that everything just all sort of comes together when you're fighting in there.
Yeah. And then let's say, because we all lose, an amateur boxer loses, how do you kind of like give constructive criticism?
Yeah, that's a hard one. You almost become, I think,
well,
like a
they've given it their best. Like if they've given it their best, how would you kind of tell them to do better next time?
But if you know they've done their best, then that's all you can ever ask. That's all a coach can ever ask, just for any fighter to do their best. But generally, it comes down maybe to a tactical error that they've made in the ring. Just little things like that. And you almost become like a father to some of these kids anyway,
And that's different because these are relationships that have been built over the years, fight by fight. And then, so I had 4 years. This is my second boxing life. I had 4 years off. So actually, my first fight back was that one there, TC. That's when Mundine fought John Wayne Parr.
Oh, yeah.
Just on the ground there.
Yeah.
And so how I kind of met Justin here. So me and Vegas were supposed to fight in Townsville, I think, early last year on the NRL fight night, that All Stars, on the plane. And I had my seating arrangement, but it was next to G, your wife. Yeah. And but she recognized me because she's like, "Oh, are you fighting?" I said, "Oh, no, well, we're supposed to be, but it didn't happen." And she recognized me from the TC fight.
Yeah.
And that's how we all kind of linked up, and then we just spoke, and then you fought that night, and that's how it all kind of started. What's your affiliation with Mundine now, Anthony Mundine?
No, we're still keeping contact. Obviously, we don't see each other all the time now with him being retired or semi-retired. Who knows if he's going to come back and fight? He was supposed to fight in Darwin a couple of times, and I was supposed to be on that as well. But no, look, he's always been one of my idols. I looked up to him as a young kid when he was playing footy, and to see his transformation, what he did in boxing and where it was, and where it was at the time. He just, I remember going to his first fights when I was in Sydney at the Roosters when I was playing there, and it was hectic. To see a guy that you idolise in rugby league and then go to a sport and just iced it. But you could just see he was one of those guys who just had the ability to do anything. And he was strong-willed. He never drunk, he never smoked. That's the way that he lived his life. Everything he did, he tried to do it properly. And like I said, he's a role model for me growing up. And I was just fortunate enough to spend time with him and do some training session with him. And I was just, and then when I told him I was having my first fight, he was happy as well. And proud that I actually got in and had a go. But we're nowhere near his level in terms of the ability that he has in the ring and also the footy field. But he was a great mentor, man. And obviously what he did for boxing and gave us rugby league guys, an opportunity to actually to cross over and have a go. Where our sport's physical as well, but this sport can be physical, or it is physical, and it's a lot different in the league as well. So that's what Chock's done for all of us guys. Has been special.
Back on what you're saying with the your Indigenous players that are talented, but then just call it off, call it quits. Same for boxers too. Those we've seen those guns that weren't really 100%, kind of leave, and you think, man, if you stick with it, you'll be the best. You see that all the time. So talent, hard work, you need a lot to even break into the 1%. Have you experienced that yet? Like any fighter that's kind of been
I've had a bucket load of them.
Yeah. And that's what makes you special, because when me and Liam win, you're given, because we're my second pro life, we were at old gyms, Caboolture and all of that, and I was with Russell Finn for a bit. But when I win, you've given credit to the old guys.
Of course, 100%. It's that kind of a sport, Like Liam came to me and yourself with over 100 amateur fights. That's not me. I can't claim that. That'd be wrong of me to claim that. If Vegas was to leave here now and go fight for someone else, he's had 80 fights for me. So that's it just is what it is. There's no point trying to sugarcoat it. It is what it is. So you got to give credit to those guys, because when you guys were kids, we know what it's like to have kids in this gym that you're checking up on them, making sure they're doing the right thing. They'll go through bad patches and you'll ride it with their family. So he did that with you guys. Donnie did that up Caboolture with you guys. He lived that. Like Liam lived at his house. He's helped everybody. So is Russell and all the other guys. So, you know, us coaches, we've got to coach against each other for a long time. But you boxers come and go. We've boxed, like we understand, we come and go. Like it's, you know, you might get, if for 10 years is a generation of a boxer, you might get 4, 5 or 6, maybe not even before you're done. You know, we croak it. Yeah. So yeah, you've got to make sure you pay respect to the coaches because they're going to be around for a long time, and you've got to coach against them every week. So yeah,
man, and then come back to Monday, do it all again. You know?
Yeah, that's right. 100%.
That's it.
That's it.
You live that professional life. Yep. This is the thing. Like, what makes you great is all those 1%ers. Like, you just have to stay on even when you don't want to do it. Show up. It's all about just showing up.
Yeah, that's right.
You post every Monday. Never miss a Monday.
Yeah.
You know, or else you get into that bad habit and everything spirals down. So
Better start writing that one down, don't we?
Never miss a Monday.
never miss a Monday, man.
Start writing that one down. Monday's not my day.
You know,
I'll text you every Monday, every Sunday night.
Yeah, Monday's hard.
But man, like, do you have a different mind these days? You've lived that life and now you're on the other side. You know, you've still got a passion for the sport, but do you see it through a different angle?
Yeah, I see it differently. I think you got to when you're retired, especially from rugby league. It's, you know, you got to take your, like now that I'm in the coach, you got to take your player's hat off and put your coach's hat on and sit back more and try and be more observer and encourage and try and fix things. Where as a player, you know, I was competitive, so if someone did something wrong, I'd be first to get him off the field or yell at him or something. Where towards the end of my career, I learnt you can't do those things. You can't hounce on your teammate because at some stage you're going to need him to turn up and do his job. But
did you experience a lot of internal in the team, kind of like, you know, bad word, but bitchiness?
Yeah, that's always there. Yeah. I think it is when you've got a lot of egos and, you know, different players on different money, and then obviously, you know, salaries. And everyone's different. Like players are different. You know, their wives or partners are going to be different, so there's going to be conflict there as well. So then you got, you know, back in the day it was a top 25. Now it's like top 30, 32 maybe. So, you know, you got 25 guys back in my day where everyone's got an attitude, everyone's got an ego, and then you're trying to brush that up with playing and then also managing that as well. So, you know, that's why you got to have a strong leadership group, strong coaches, where you got to pull a lot of that stuff in the line, because if you walk past things, you know, it can create really bad habits and the whole team will suffer. So, yeah, I learnt that pretty quickly. You know, having guys like Big Gordy Tallis and all that were pretty good role models and good leaders for guys like myself who comes through, where, you know, if you get him a little bit ahead of yourself or you think you're going better yourself, he'll just pull you up straight away and tell you to pull your head in, otherwise he'll chin you. And you don't want to get punched by that big fella. And I've seen him do it a few times, and he's the raging bull. He gets a bit scary, don't worry about that. But it's just things you learn though. But like if you come through as a young bloke, you think you've done everything or you're entitled to things, and you see a guy like that who's done everything in the game, you know, just to see that respect that he's got for other people in the public, and then young guys like us coming through thinking that we're running the world and we're bulletproof, and then sort of puts a different you know, perspective as well, and it brings you back down to earth. So which you need.
There'd be huge egos. Think about if you had the top 25 boxers in the country and you tried to make them all work together. They're all individuals. They're all guns.
Yep.
So to make the NRL is unbelievable in itself. So you got all these guys that were the best coming up from when they were kids, and now they're all around these other guys that are all that level, and they all want to be the big dog. So to take someone very mature, in my opinion, to be a leader in that, because you've got to take ego out of it, surely, and then you've got to lead. You've got to make that work, because it's a bunch of high achieving men that are just out for blood. 100%. They got to win.
What made Wayne Bennett so good as a coach?
Oh look, just the way he treated his players. I think
all of them equal.
Everyone was equal. He always had time for everybody. I know every morning, you know, on a Monday morning, you know, we'll be sitting in the change rooms getting ready for training. Everyone's, you know, carrying on, having a laugh at what they did on the weekends and stuff, or if they played a good game or a bad game. You're getting ready to hide before you walk in and watch the video. But look, he was just special the way that he just knew his players. You know, like if someone had an off day or an off game or just quiet at training or too loud or something, he just knew. He'd pull you aside, talk to you, make sure you're fine. You know, he knew most of your family's name. It's just those little things that made him special where, you felt like you didn't want to let him down. Whenever time that you played bad or you're on a couple of bad games or your team was on a couple of bad losses, he'd just stand in front, so to speak, and take the bullet for the club. And that's what everyone admired him for. Every time we were feeling a bit of pressure, he just made sure he said some outrageous comments where everything was focused on him and he just wanted us to do our job. And look, he never tried to make everyone play without playing to their potential. I think that's what made him the player that he was. He didn't try and make me play different, didn't try and make Lockie or Wendell Saylor or Gordon Tallis or the younger guys coming through. He knew that their level of what they could play out. So he coached to that level for them and coached to our level for us. And he just had a knack of bringing everybody together and then, controlling the media as well, like I said, taking the pressure off us and just bringing a group of men with egos together, for a common purpose, and that's to win competition. That's why he's always been successful. And, guys didn't want to let him down. You'd put your body on the line for him. It's like if you didn't like your coach or the coach didn't like you or we didn't like our coach, there's no one in the world going to go out there and put our body on the line and get smashed or for nothing. And that's why you see a lot of those good coaches that are still around because, the respect that the players have for them. They'll run through anybody or run through any wall or get tackled or make a tackle when they're tired and fatigued or they're injured. You see blokes playing with broken jaws and limbs and all that stuff, but they make that extra effort because they don't want to let their teammates down or their coach down.
That's what makes you guys special too, because you understand we've got different personalities, different styles even, and you know what ticks. You're with the pros, you're with the amateurs, and that's something, like, again, that relationship built over the years. You know what makes us tick, what makes us work. You've seen the egos here, you've seen us kind of bully each other in the ring with sparring, you've seen it all. You've had to really hush us down and bring us up and all of that. Well, what do you think some of your experiences are with even the amateurs? Challenges even.
Yeah, it just depends. Like with the amateurs, it all comes down to age group. Obviously, the 10 to 13 years, some of the kids still going through growth spurts and just things like that. And obviously, with your seniors, it's a little bit more different. Like you only got to tell them a few things and they're able to do it. With the younger kids, the hormone changes and things like that. So that's another thing in itself as well. You got to go through. Yeah. Do
you find that some of these kids don't listen? You've had that experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Where they just don't get it. And I guess that's a skill. Coaching is a skill in itself. It's people skills. So I guess you've had to learn how to change your approach. You have to approach every kid different because they're all different.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's got their own character to themselves. Just different people all together. So you got to try and adjust to every person in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they can't be on every week of the year. Yeah. That's another thing. Like, you expect excellence out of them, but you can, as we spoke about, Coach Paul and I a couple of months ago, you can see when a kid has a fight lined up. So if we say, Miles, you have a fight, he's on. But you're in the gym all year, but then you might not be on when you haven't got a fight. Yeah. And that's something that you got to take into consideration.
You got to juggle the sparring.
That's right. You got to work out. Okay, he's on at the moment, and you might usually beat this guy, but because you haven't got a fight, he might beat you because he's got to be on. So there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of mind games, a lot of stuff that we've got to juggle with you guys because.
And you, as coaches, you get involved with sometimes our lifestyle, things that are happening outside of the boxing world.
Yeah, more so than not. Especially for me. I mean, I don't know about Coach Paul. I try and take a lot of it for the club, but a lot of the home stuff, and that's I'm at home on the phone. If something happens here or something is happening with one of the pros or even some of the amateur kids, I'm on the phone all night. To parents, to whatever, it might be managers, it might be promoters, it might be all night. It's brutal.
Just like
and for what? Like this is where you start to question it. It's like, for what? So these guys can go out there in front of on TV, do their best for $5,000. Yeah. It's like you start to question it, and then you think it's a long-term process. But it's these are questions that you ask yourself as a coach. You're like, man, these guys are on a hiding to nothing because we're in Australia, and it's the boxing's not as popular as league or cricket or AFL. So you've really got to believe. Like, you've really got to believe in yourself to try and make it in boxing.
That's where I feel All-Star Boxing's coming through. Like, this is the hub, and like it shouldn't be rivals, and that's what should make Australia come through as a nation with the boxing is there shouldn't be rivals. Everyone's coming here for sparring. Different clubs come here on Saturday mornings, and everyone's sparring with each other. And some of them haven't even fought. So and so beat so and so, but they're sparring again because there's quality in that. So the gyms have to come together.
The boxing community is way too small to be us versus you in Australia. It's way too small. You know, in America and in England, there's a boxing corner on every second street.
Yeah.
Here, you know, I can't even think of another boxing gym in this area. You know, like if there is two, there's maybe one or two in the whole region.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important that we all work together because it's just not the numbers.
And we've got those stories where we've travelled to Bundaberg and all of that just for fights or just for sparring, you know. So
well, I was down in Sydney this morning, so I woke up at 4:30 this morning, went to Sydney and sparred, come back by midday, then I was here. I rocked to here at 1 o'clock, straight into it, like out of the car into a PT, then straight into the pros, then he's straight into the amateurs, then it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And now it's 8:30 at night. We're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Do you
stop.
think the sport will ever get to that level?
It's just going to take promoters, like big promoters, to come and, you know, with the likes of George and Tim and those big names, you know, that we're making noise. We're making noise on the world scene. It's just, you know, it's just a hard sport. It's just so tough. There's a lot of money getting injected into those other countries, like, you know, GB, like Team GB, they get lottery funding. So they take 10% out of all the lottery winnings. I think it's 10%. I could be wrong there, but so whoever wins lotto, 10% is gone to Olympic sport.
Wow.
So they got mad facilities. They got guys on their podium squads that they call like potential podium. If you might make a podium, they're getting paid $60,000 a year to be an amateur. Why would they turn pro here for $20,000 a year maybe? And to embarrass yourself on telly if you don't box well. And 1 week you're a gun, they love you. Next minute they hate you. And the boxing public is sketchy,
That's
man.
people,
Like,
man.
it's
That's
sketchy.
athletes.
That's
You
what
know,
it
they
is,
love
you know,
1
like,
week.
yeah, you get on there and you box well and you're a gun. Next minute, you lose, you're a hype job. Yeah, it's like, fuck, man, you're paying to
Back
watch
at the back
this.
cooking hot dogs.
Yeah, what are you doing? Like support the guys. We're not big enough to be throwing shit at each other. Like, we're not big enough.
That's the one thing I've noticed since I've had a few fights. Is just like you're saying, just the boxing worlds just don't come together here. Whether it's egos or money, or they don't let fighters fight who they want to fight, or like you said, come and spar like the best two guys sparring, even though one day you're going to fight each other. But you know, to be competitive and be a great sport, that's what you need.
Yeah.
It's like rugby league not playing against the best team or not playing against each other. No, we're not playing against you this week because you'll beat us, or I don't like you, or you know, like there's got to be a common ground where the sport comes together and just make it, because it's, you know, like it's so special. Like having those couple of fights, man, I love it. Like just the training and the butterflies that you get, you know, before a fight. Like it's just, you can't like, as you know, you can't explain it, because you know, rugby league, you're born to do that. You don't, the butterflies are there, but not as bad. Like, man, boxing, I wake up, just shit in your stomach's going, oh man, heck, what did I sign up to this for? But then when you're in there, it's just something takes over and you say, okay, well then it's time to go to war. It's survival mode, you know, and all that training that you did. But it'll be awesome to see the sport, you know, to get to some professionalism where, you know, guys like the proper boxers and that don't have to work full time as well.
Oh,
as
for
training,
sure.
you know,
The amateur scene is much better than the pros. There's not that many pros. There's just not that many pros in Australia. The numbers just aren't there. But the amateur clubs are great. The amateurs all work together. All the states work together. Jamie Pittman runs the amateur. He's Boxing Australia head coach. He brings everybody together. He's a machine. Like it's absolutely, it's seamless in the amateurs. It's just the pros when you're starting to talk about money and you're starting to talk about where losses matter. That's like before when we're talking about the amateurs, how do we ride those waves? Well, it's not that much pressure, because if you lose an amateur fight, this is the funny thing. You think about this. I've seen this a million times, and so have you. You see 10-year-olds fight. So you're from a different club, right? You're the coach of whatever. I'm the coach of here. 2 10-year-olds fight. They're going at it, and they whatever. Your guy wins, my guy loses. The kids are outside having a can of Coke playing in the playground. And me and you are, oh, well, I thought my kid won. He landed 2 jabs in the first round, whatever. And you're like, well, you're a dickhead, mate. My kid won. The kids are outside having a can of, no one gives a shit. That's the amateurs. Like, the amateurs are like that. Unless it's a qualification for a big event like the Olympics or Com Games, it's cutthroat, but that's the top of the top there. But yeah, amateur boxing compared to pro boxing is, the more I'm in the pro boxing, they're 2 different sports. Yeah, they're very different,
Man.
Yeah, they are.
How did you feel like running out onto the field when, 50,000, 60,000 people state of origin? Did you get those butterflies?
No, not really. I think it's more, excited. Like Origin's a different sort of a beast, and it's a different feeling. Like it's more, to me, it meant more to my family, like knowing where I've come from and, the sacrifices that my mum and dad made and the challenge that we had growing up as well. And for them, moving from Cairns down to Brisbane, when I was 15 to give me the opportunity to play football. So for me, it was more of an honour and a privilege because I used to sit there and go, one day I'm going to do this, one day I want to run out there with Queensland and bash New South Wales and all that type of stuff, where as a young kid we all dream things, whether or not it's going to happen, but it's what you do to make sure it happens. To me it was just always about the sacrifices and the decisions that I made to get to where I got to, and the excitement. Run out of Suncorp Stadium. Like we always try and talk about and explain it, but it's so hard. I know getting off the bus, walking in the dressing room and you see your number and your name on the back of it and you start thinking about all the people that, gave you this opportunity to wear that jersey, and obviously the players that have come before us and all that type of stuff that goes into wearing a Queensland jersey. Then, warming up and getting ready to go out after the coach addresses you and stuff, and it's just so quiet. Like it's just hardly any noise, like before the captain sort of gives you his little yarn before you run out. It's just quiet, like you wouldn't even know there's anybody out there. And as soon as the door opens up, it's just like this massive like air comes through the joint, and like everything stands up, and just your face changes, and it's like, okay, let's go and hurt some people. And
that's so crazy because in that when we won 9 out of 10, I was at most of those games. 8, is it? Yeah. I was at most of those games. My auntie used to work for Fuji, and I used to get tickets every year. I felt that as a spectator. Yeah. Like I was a passionate rugby league guy then. Like I'm just so into boxing that I don't have time to be as into it as I was. But I was in the crowd, like Petro's last game, things like that. I was that proud and pumped as a spectator, and I could only imagine what you guys would go through. Yeah, so like the same feeling that I would get when a guy wins, like my biggest guy wins his best fight. Yeah. I had that when Queensland were winning. I was just like, it was just the best nights of my life.
Yeah. And it's crazy, like like you get nerves, but not to the extent where you're sort of worrying, and like some players spew up, some players get really sick, but you sort of look around the room, you're like, okay, we got he's sitting there, he's sitting there, he's sitting there. Man, we ain't gonna lose. Like if we turn up, with the right attitude and work hard for each other, exactly what we know we're gonna do. There's no team was ever gonna beat us, and that's how we always looked at it. So we always felt comfortable. We always were humble in defeat and humble when we won, but also, we even though we hated them, but we had to respect them, and that's the number one thing in our sport. You got to respect your opponents, but also you got a job to do is hurt them as well.
Yeah. Did you have any rituals? Game day or anything that was special for you?
Nah, not really. I sort of just cruised. Like I didn't really have too much. I just had my like icebreaker and stuff like that. And, not too much. Like I was pretty cruisy. I just sort of hung around family and friends, and then just sort of took it as it came. But some blokes were different. Some like Billy Slater used to put his left boot on before his right boot, and and some guys didn't want to talk. Like once they walked through that room after the bus, you couldn't talk to them. So we knew that about every player. So, the players that didn't want to talk, they'd just go sit by themselves. And then all of us that wanted to muck around, we sort of got away from them to give them their time to get ready to prepare, for their game. So, so a lot of us didn't have it, but then some blokes had their music on, but then a lot of us would just talk crap just to keep our mind off the game, because the less we thought about the game prior to the game, we'd play better. The more we thought about it, that's when we played bad.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's hard with boxing too. It is what it is. Like you can talk about it all you want. You can waste all your nervous energy on it, but that bell's going to go. That siren's going to go. Like
it's going to go eventually.
It is what it is.
So whatever you got to do to make sure you play your best, that's what everyone had to do.
Yeah. And I think now, like for myself, I think I don't want to embarrass myself on TV. Even though I lost my last fight, like I now understand that I've got a life to live. Like I've got a life after boxing. Like this is a tough sport. We all know that, and like I just don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to. I've got like a future family to really start supporting. All of this. That's where Liam's at. That's why his next fight's so huge for him, because this is like everything to him.
Yeah, and it's true, but it happens very quickly, because you think about your last fight against Dana, and congratulations to Dana, great performance. 6 weeks earlier, he's embarrassed, and then you box before, and you with TC and all these other guys, this is what it is. This is sport in general, not just boxing. It could be league. You could have a horrible game. The next game you play great. There's only one thing that fixes it,
Yeah.
and that's winning.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I think the hardest thing too is, like you said, at some stage everyone's gonna lose.
Yeah.
Apart from Floyd Mayweather and all these freaks, but in league you lose, boxing you lose, but it's I reckon it's how you deal with it and how you come back from that. I think that's and I know it sounds like an old cliche, but it's true. Like, whether you drop your lip and you hang around and go, I got knocked out, like this, or I lost a football game, or I didn't make this. Like, you got to eventually go, okay, well, it's happened. I've got to move on now and have another crack. Like, I remember when Darcy knocked me out with the first round, I was like, man, because I was so pumped up for that fight, and because like I didn't have an amateur background, so I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of, I should have held him longer and all this stuff. But knowing what I know now, I can't go back and change it. But it's actually made me train harder, made me probably put more into my sparring and put more into my training just to prepare more.
See things differently.
Yeah, because I wasn't working all that stuff, tying up and coming out of a tie-up and then working the ring and that. Like, I didn't know. I just tried to push him like you would a leg, and then he just went bang. But I didn't know any better. But I think that's the only way you learn, is you learn by your mistakes, and then, you'll come back for sure. I know that.
Generally, if you're in boxing and you're not losing, if you haven't lost, you're just not stepping up, because you've got to be taking hard challenges. Now, how many Floyd Mayweathers are there out there? Look at Vasil Lomachenko, 396-1 as an amateur. He's lost 2 as a pro. Like, it's just, you've got to make sure you're stepping up competition if you want to get better. If you want to win those big titles, you got to step it up. So it is what it is.
No, cool, man, bro. I appreciate you coming on, eh? And look, that was cool. I really appreciate your time and for you guys for allowing me to do this. We want to roll an episode every fortnight, and we'll have Vegas Larfield on next week for his upcoming fight. And I really want to get the good stuff out of it, the human side of the sport. You've been a professional athlete, the ins and outs, the lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. Do you guys have any final notes? You want to share anything? All good? And there's something we can roll out. We can roll it over time, and we can go from there. But bro, I was hoping you could sign an All-Star singlet.
Sure.
We'll give it out to one of the kids.
Give it away to the person that shares this.
Yeah. So look, we really want to focus on our YouTube channel. So those that are watching, we'll give this away to one of the new subscribers. All you have to do is just subscribe, and we'll draw a name and we'll post it out to you. So, bro, again, thank you for coming on, man. Thanks for your time. And we'll have the amateurs on. This is just a platform for the kids to come through. Amateurs, sponsors, managers, some of the members that are here. Everyone's got stories to tell. You guys are special. You guys are behind the All-Star brand, so I just want to do my best to really bring out the best. And that's all, man. So thank you. Awesome. Thanks.
You're on the podcast all day.
Oh, no. That was cool. That was good, yeah.